Chapter 1. The Disappearance. Lily Harper was a typical 16-year-old girl. She lived in a small, peaceful town and had a simple, happy life. She had brown hair, bright blue eyes, and a smile that could light up any room. Lily loved doing things most teenagers enjoyed, like reading books, playing the piano, and hanging out with her friends. There was nothing strange or unusual about her. She had a close relationship with her mother, Mrs. Harper, and they often spent time together talking or doing things around the house. One day after lunch, Lily decided to go for a walk. She often went for walks around the neighborhood when she wanted some time to think or relax. She told her mother she would be back in about an hour. It was a normal routine for Lily, and Mrs. Harper didn't think anything of it. The weather was beautiful, and the sun was shining brightly that afternoon. Mrs. Harper stayed inside, busy with chores, waiting for her daughter to return. As time passed, Mrs. Harper started to notice that Lily hadn't come back. It had been over an hour, but still no sign of her. Mrs. Harper wasn't worried at first, thinking maybe Lily had gotten caught up with a friend or was enjoying the walk a little longer. But as more time passed, she began to feel uneasy. She decided to call Lily's phone, but it rang and rang before going straight to voicemail. Mrs. Harper felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She knew something wasn't right. As the hours went by, the sun started to set. It was getting late, and Lily still hadn't returned. Mrs. Harper's worry turned to fear. Something had happened to her daughter. She rushed out the door calling Lily's name, but there was no answer. Mrs. Harper ran to the police station, hoping they could help. The town wasn't big, and everyone knew each other, so the news of Lily's disappearance spread quickly. People from the neighborhood joined the search, but Lily was nowhere to be found. It felt as if she had disappeared into thin air. Chapter 2. The search begins. The news of Lily's disappearance quickly spread through the town, and soon the entire community came together to search for her. Friends, family, and even people who didn't know Lily personally joined the effort. They walked through the streets, checked the parks, and searched the woods. They called out her name, hoping she would answer, but there was no sign of her anywhere. The town had never experienced something like this before. Everyone was worried, and the fear of the unknown grew with every hour that passed. As the search continued, the police brought in Detective Carter, a man in his 40s. He had gray hair and a serious expression, as if he had seen it all. He had solved many cases before, but this one felt different. It wasn't just another missing person case to him. Something about Lily's disappearance didn't add up, and he had a sinking feeling in his gut that it was more than just a simple case of someone getting lost. Sitting in his small office, Detective Carter spread out a map of the town. He studied it carefully, looking for any places where Lily might have gone. He thought about the last time anyone had seen her, but still, there were no clues, no footprints leading anywhere, no strange phone calls, nothing that could explain where Lily had gone. "Something is wrong," he muttered to himself. His mind raced with questions, but every answer seemed to lead to more questions. The lack of evidence made it harder for him to understand what had happened to Lily. Detective Carter knew he had to find out what happened, and fast. The clock was ticking, and with each passing minute, Lily's chances of being found alive grew slimmer. Chapter 3. A Strange Clue. 2 days passed, and the search for Lily continued, but there were no new clues. The townspeople started to lose hope, but Mrs. Harper couldn't give up. She spent her days walking around the places Lily loved to visit, hoping to find something, anything, that could lead her to her daughter. She walked through the park where Lily often went to relax, and along the roads they both knew so well, calling out her name. One afternoon, as she walked near the edge of the town's park, Mrs. Harper spotted something shiny on the ground. She walked over and bent down to see what it was. It was a small silver locket. Her heart stopped. It was Lily's locket. Mrs. Harper recognized it immediately. Lily had worn it every single day since she was a little girl. It was her favorite piece of jewelry. Mrs. Harper felt a lump in her throat as she picked it up. Why would Lily's locket be here? This was strange. The park was far from the places where Lily usually walked. She never went this way. Mrs. Harper wondered if Lily had been there recently. But why would she leave her locket behind? It didn't make sense. With shaking hands, Mrs. Harper took the locket to Detective Carter. When he saw it, he agreed that it was an important clue. He didn't know what it meant yet. But it was clear that Lily had been at the park at some point. The locket could be the key to finding her. Detective Carter began to think harder. Where had Lily gone? And why would she leave her most cherished item behind? The mystery was deepening. Chapter 4. The Strange Stranger. Detective Carter knew the locket was an important clue, but it didn't bring him any closer to finding Lily. He decided to start by asking people who might have seen her that day. One person, Mrs. Green, who lived near the park, said she had seen a man standing near the path where Lily often walked. She described him as tall, with dark hair, and wearing a green jacket. Mrs. Green didn't recognize the man, but the fact that he was near the spot where Lily was last seen was something. This wasn't much to go on, but it was a start. Detective Carter decided to track down the man in the green jacket. He worked with the police to show the description of the man to people around town, asking if anyone had seen someone who fit that description. Days went by, and there was still no sign of the man. The search seemed to be going in circles, and Detective Carter was starting to feel frustrated. Just when it seemed like they were getting nowhere, someone came forward with new information. Tom, a young man who worked at the local coffee shop, said he had seen the man with the green jacket talking to Lily in the park. Tom wasn't sure what they had been talking about, but he remembered that Lily seemed upset when she walked away from the man. She looked like something was bothering her. This was the first real lead that Detective Carter had. It gave him something more to work with. He began focusing on finding the man in the green jacket, hoping that this clue would finally lead him to Lily. The case was beginning to feel more serious, and the detective knew that they were getting closer to uncovering the truth. Chapter 5. The Secrets Unravel. The search for the man in the green jacket wasn't going anywhere. No one in the town recognized the description. It was as if he had just disappeared. Detective Carter's team followed up on every lead, but nothing seemed to connect. It felt like they were chasing shadows. Meanwhile, Mrs. Harper's worry grew deeper with each day. She missed her daughter more than anything, and every hour that passed without any answers made her feel like she was losing hope. One evening, as Mrs. Harper sat alone in her living room, She thought back to something unusual Lily had mentioned before. Lily had often talked about a boy named Mark, a friend from school. Mark had moved away a while ago, but Lily always spoke about him with a sense of hope, saying that one day Mark would come back to town. Mrs. Harper had never thought much about it, but now the thought of Mark stuck in her mind. Could he have something to do with Lily's disappearance? Mrs. Harper felt a sudden need to find out more about him. She decided to contact Mark's family, hoping they could give her some answers. When she called, Mark's parents seemed shocked to hear from her. They told her something that made her heart race. Mark had come back to town just 2 days before Lily went missing. It was the same time Lily had disappeared. Mrs. Harper couldn't believe what she was hearing. Was this just a coincidence, or was it something more? She knew she had to find out more about Mark's return to town and whether he had been involved in Lily's disappearance. The feeling in her gut told her this was the key to solving the mystery. Chapter 6: A Sudden Reunion. The discovery that Mark had returned to town left Mrs. Harper feeling both confused and relieved. On one hand, it seemed like a strange coincidence that Mark came back just before Lily disappeared. On the other hand, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to it. Could Mark have been involved in Lily's disappearance, or was it just a chance timing? Mrs. Harper didn't know what to think. Detective Carter decided to speak with Mark directly. When they interviewed him, Mark appeared nervous and uncomfortable. He denied knowing anything about Lily's whereabouts. He seemed to be telling the truth, but something in his manner made the detective feel uneasy. Mark's behavior didn't seem right, and Carter's instincts told him that there was something more to the story. Late one night after the interview, Detective Carter and his team decided to search Mark's house. They had a feeling they might find something useful there. They didn't find Lily, but they did find something that made their hearts race: Lily's diary. The diary had been hidden away in Mark's room, and its pages revealed something shocking. The diary was filled with entries that suggested there was more to Lily and Mark's relationship than anyone knew. It hinted that they had been secretly close, and that Lily might have been hiding her feelings from everyone around her. The discovery of the diary was a breakthrough. Detective Carter's team spoke to Mark's friends, who confirmed that Mark had a crush on Lily. However, they also said that Lily had always kept her distance from him. She never seemed to return his feelings, and she had tried to hide her emotions. It seemed like Lily had been keeping a secret. But why? And what role had Mark played in her disappearance? Chapter 7: The Truth Comes Out. Detective Carter and his team didn't stop searching for Lily. They focused on Mark, suspecting he might know more than he was letting on. After a few more days of investigation, they found something new. Another clue. This time it was a message from Lily. The message was written on the back of an old map of the town, and it was clear that Lily had been trying to tell someone the truth. The message read, "Mark is hiding something. I don't feel safe anymore. I'm going to leave tonight." Reading those words sent a chill down the detective's spine. It became clear that Lily had known something dangerous about Mark. She didn't feel safe with him anymore. Mark had been keeping secrets from her, and it seemed that these secrets were serious. Detective Carter dug deeper into Mark's life and discovered that he had recently gotten involved with some dangerous people. Lily must have found out about Mark's connections to these people. and it frightened her. She had planned to run away that night to escape him and the danger he was connected to. But before she could leave, Mark stopped her. It seemed that Lily had been trying to flee when she was stopped by Mark. That night, as she left the park, she had dropped her locket on purpose. She had hoped someone would find it and realize something was wrong. The locket was a signal, a clue that she had left behind. Now, everything made sense. Lily had tried to escape, but Mark had prevented her from leaving. The truth was starting to come out, and Detective Carter knew he was getting closer to finding Lily. But the question remained: where was she now? Chapter 8: The Final Search. With the new information from Lily's message, Detective Carter and his team launched a final, intense search. They were determined to find Lily and bring her home safely. Their search led them to an old cabin just outside of town. There they found Mark, who had been hiding out with Lily. When the police arrived, Mark was caught off guard. He had been trying to keep Lily hidden and quiet, away from everyone who could help her. When Mark saw the police, he panicked. He tried to run, but it was too late. The police quickly caught him, and he was arrested. Lily was found safe, though she was frightened and exhausted. She had been kept in the cabin by Mark, who had been trying to control her after she discovered his dangerous secrets. But now, she was finally free. The town was shaken by the truth. Everyone had known Mark as a quiet, ordinary person, and no one had suspected he was capable of such actions. He had hidden in plain sight, and his lies had nearly destroyed the lives of both his and Lily's families. The shock of what had happened left the entire community in disbelief. Although Lily was safe, the town would never be the same. The truth had come out, and the secrets that Mark had tried to keep hidden had changed everything. Detective Carter and his team had finally solved the case, but the healing for the families and the town would take time. Chapter 9: The Return Home. When Lily returned home, everything felt different. The happy, carefree girl she had once been was no longer the same. The time she spent hiding away from the world had changed her. She was quieter, more cautious, and had trouble trusting people. The fear and confusion she experienced were hard to forget. But despite everything, Lily's family and friends stood by her, offering their love and support. Slowly, day by day, she began to heal. It wasn't easy, and it took time, but with the help of those who cared about her, Lily started to feel safe again. Though Lily was back with her family, the town was left with the memories of what had happened. The mystery of her disappearance would never be forgotten. It was a shocking event that had shaken the whole community. People realized how important it is to pay attention to the people around them, and how sometimes the truth can be hidden in places they never expected. For the town, Lily's return was a reminder of the power of love, truth, and family. The search for Lily had brought everyone together, from the police to the townspeople, and it showed them the strength of their community. In the end, although the truth was hard to find, it did bring Lily back home, and that was what mattered most. The town learned that even in difficult times, people can come together and help one another. And for Lily, returning home was just the beginning of a new chapter, where healing and moving forward became her focus.